Hello and welcome back. This is your reading if you have significant Libra placements, not just Sun in Libra, but Moon in Libra, MC in Libra, Pluto Libra, Venus Libra, and you are in the process or recently are going through a breakup or a separation. You may also listen to this message if it calls to you. Intuitively, I feel like this is a collective effort that those with significant Libra placements are dealing with, myself included. But for your personal situation, reach out to me for a personal reading. I do these on a gift exchange basis and ask that you give comfortably, generously, or comfortably generous, whatever works for you. So let's get into why it's important to let go. Normally, I don't timestamp these recordings, but this is an important window between May and June. This is a partly channeled message and then also integrating my own experience and wisdom, so it's mixed. Between May and June, there is a cosmic window, a portal, if you will, that is opening. Many people in the collective have been talking about the splitting of timelines and transitioning through the ascension process to something called the New Earth. There's a lot of speculation on what this means, and a true discussion of that is a little outside of the scope for today's message. But what you need to know is that there are windows in time and space that allow you to transition to another life, another version of the life that you have, but with better outcomes, with better characters, with better people. And if you are in the process of letting go, particularly if you are on a self-love journey, meaning that the universe has sent you people in your life who have not treated you the way that you know you deserve to be treated, in order for you to exercise boundaries, in order for you to deepen your self-love and prioritization of yourself, then this is your opportunity to let go once and for all. Now, when we talk about letting go, this is really important. It doesn't mean forever, because if we zoom out, if we take the universe's perspective and look at your life, even though in this moment you may feel like this is it, it's done, it's over, never again, from the universe's perspective of infinity, it doesn't make sense. And what we need to do is we need to recalibrate this idea of right place, right time in regards to letting go. And that makes it easier because you're not slamming the door on somebody's face for eternity. Even if you might feel like doing that in this moment, there's a couple of you that do, and that's okay. Honor your feelings. They're all okay, right? And so by recognizing that we have the ability to have endless configurations of relationships with all of the people we have in our lives, especially our soulmates, our soul family, our soul kin. Because there is this agreement that we are going to find each other in each life. And even if we don't stay together, it's sort of like this check-in, like we're going to meet up and then just see how each other's doing and see if we resonate or if we have any magnetic energy between us. And it just so happens that some of these soul friends and family and partners will come to us to help us with baggage that we need to release, and vice versa. But it is our society's standards that measure, personal success by the longevity of our relationships. This creates a lot of problems. And even though these views are changing over time, it's kind of looked upon negatively if you sever communication with your family or your best friend or your husband, your wife, your other romantic life partner, whoever it is, right? And so society historically has looked at you as though there's something wrong with you for choosing somebody that would not treat you the way that you want to be treated, or by failing in relationships, or sometimes both. And what I would like us to do is to take that social conditioning and to simply erase it just for a moment. We can let it come back after this recording, but just erase it. And now let's look at it from the lens of eternity. Hey, it looks like your avatar chose a life and is living out an existence where you have a psychological template that operates in this way. And so if we were to arrange soul, family, and friends to come and help you evolve, we would need some compatible baggage so that they would be able to trigger you, right? Okay, order up. Now, next life, you have a different configuration. Let's say that your internal operating system is not Windows. Let's say it is something called Spaces. And Spaces has a very unique design that is not really equivalent to anything that you've ever experienced before. So from the universe's perspective, those soul family and soul partners, if we were to simulate an existence of them, and I'm not saying that they're not real because they are, and you know that, you can feel it, right? But from the perspective of eternity, in a completely different configuration, then those friends, family, and partners would also have a completely different configuration. This is part of the design for us to awaken. We craft an experience for which we can evolve and awaken through. Some say, like Dolores Cannon, say that we do this in advance from a place beyond space and time. Others say we do it before we enter into a life, but everybody pretty much agrees that you sign up for it, and that those in your soul family and your soul kins and partners also sign up for it, and that you all kind of have a collective purpose, and that we all have groups and then subgroups, and that the universe helps us bump into each other miraculously. And we can dissect how that might be possible all day long, but for right now, let's just keep the conversation where we're headed, which is why it's important to let go. So now that we understand that we're not letting go for forever, it gives us a sort of personal power where we're able to say, you know what? This isn't working for me anymore. And you can feel it when that happens. Like, we're not talking about that on again, off again polarization where you're like breaking up, but you're still obsessing over them and, you know, like you're still magnetized. And in that situation, this meditative lecture is not going to help you. This is for those that have that ick feeling, that are like repelled, that almost feel a sense of disgust or judgment. Now, a lot of people will tell you on the consciousness expansion journey in particular that those feelings are bad and that we shouldn't have them because it puts you at a low vibration. I used to agree with them but I have come to understand the value of them. And it is true that if you are a slave to them, then they can pull down your vibration. But if you use them as almost like an information marker to understand how to better create your existence and your reality, then they become very powerful tools for helping to guide you away and navigate towards that which is actually in alignment with what you're trying to create. And if you're in tune with what your soul is craving and you're in alignment is what we call, so you're not just trying to create from the mind like I used to. I want success and wealth and fame and prestige and the cars and the townhouse and the marriage and the, and then you get there and you're like, wow, okay, I have everything that I ever wanted. And why does it feel empty? Because I was going at it from the mind and what I thought that I wanted. So there's a process where you have to go through, where you have to get in alignment with what your soul wants. And your soul can also want those things too. There's nothing wrong with that. But you have to be sure that you're coming at it from a heart-centered perspective and in service. Like your priorities really change. And when you can line all of those things up, it's an incredible feeling that feels like passion and purpose and a secret that nobody is really talking about. No other people talk about it, but before you get there, you don't really understand the purpose of them talking about it. You're like, okay, sure. Yeah, let's find our purpose. Okay. Yeah, great. There's like another level of understanding where you're like, wow, life is worth living now. Before it was like, I was just chasing the next shiny thing or shiny person. So once you get past the shiny thing phase, and everybody I think has to go through that, and I'll have a separate lecture on that later. Once you get past that and you start to align yourself with your soul, then those emotions like disgust and recoil are very temporary and are almost like guideposts. It's like you think about a storm in the sky. If you are scared of storms, it's because you're scared of the change and the destruction that they can bring, right? And so you might hold on to this idea of a storm that it's always negative. But in fact, nature with its fury and its majestic beauty creates these cyclone destructive events which actually help to clear, to help make the ground more fertile, to rebalance things. And it's not always a mega destructive event. And so then you can start to appreciate some of the quote unquote negative aspects of our existence, like a personal storm in your life. Really, this helps you to clear that which is not really in alignment with you. And when you have that feeling of like, ugh, I gotta get this person out of my life. Conversation's over. Like, we're not fixing it. It's done. I'm done. There's not enough attention, in my opinion, on society on honoring that process. And as a result, we have a habitual tendency to just repetitively get back into relationships because that conditioning creeps back into us and says something's wrong, that I'm not fixing it. Oh, they seem really sorry. And the next thing you know, you're signed up for another round. What I'm saying is, let's take that process and let's honor it. And then let's zoom all the way out from the universe's perspective and say, I think I've had enough right now. And that's okay. So let's pause, an indefinite pause. Maybe I'll see you next lifetime. Maybe I won't. Maybe it'll be in 5 lifetimes. Maybe it'll be in 5 months. Let's just say we don't know when we're going to catch back up with each other. We know it'll happen when we both feel it. And right now, I'm not feeling it. I'm feeling this intense repelling energy. You don't have to go into the repulsion, because it's not often about them. It's just a signal that it's no longer in alignment with you. And it's really important to listen to. But we have a tendency to want to whitewash all of those negative emotions. And that's what I'm saying that we need to change. Don't get bogged down, for like 6 months. Don't be in like a low vibe state, right? Like, let it pass through you, see it for what it is, honor it, and don't try to suppress it or ignore it. Say, wow, that's actual disgust. I think that means that our time is coming to a close. And it doesn't matter why. Let's just see it for what it is. And now let's understand that with all of this talk of portals and shifting realities and different timelines, that this process of letting go may be the key for us to shift in a different direction. This may be the key to shift in a different direction. But if you are not letting go, and it doesn't matter about them, right? That's their process, because nobody should be allowed to chase you down throughout all of existence. That kind of feels abusive, right? Like, okay, I'll see you in the next life, and the next life, and then I'm gonna hunt you down. That's like, it's getting a little intense. And if that is actually possible, then we need to manifest the back end support and the system design to nip that in the bud, because then nobody would ever be able to escape. And that's just patently not fair. That's a violation of sovereignty and free will, right? And so if that happens to be the case, let's put some manifesting energy into creating a system where we can prevent that and stop that. So now moving on. We need to exercise our right to be free. Freedom is not guaranteed. We actually have to it's true. It's absolutely true. We have to make the decisions to untangle ourselves. Now, it doesn't mean that we always can. And so that's when we call on supporting forces to help us. Like if we are a fish that's caught in a net and we don't have hands or the ability to get out of it, then we have to send a wish up into the heavens or the other worlds for divine intervention. But we have to exercise that, and we have to create the space for freedom to occur. And so as you are going through the process of letting go and separation, and if you're magnetized still, then you're not done. It's just, if you're magnetized, then you'll know it. And likely they'll be magnetized too. And you got to go through it again, because you've got something that is unlearned. And you can try to suppress it. You can try to walk away. Let me know how that works out for you. Sometimes it's worked for me, sometimes it hasn't. Recently, as I've become more in alignment, what I have found to happen is that at first, when I'm still magnetized, I'll say, this isn't good for me. I know it's not good for me. I'm purposefully and intentionally walking away, even though I'm still being pulled back in the other direction. And even though I might look back sometimes, if I look back, I'm going to walk 2 times as fast. I'm going to self-correct. And then as I do the internal work, what happens is that magnetizing energy suddenly shifts and neutralizes. And then when I see that person, I'm like, wow, I'm not even attracted to you anymore. What happened? It was so like vroom, vroom, and then I do the personal work, and then the magnetizing just completely evaporates. And I feel like it's mutual as well. And it's like, oh, we can actually be friends now. That's so cool. I had this thing where I was like really attracted to unavailable partners for a while. And so God, like it was just horrific because I would meet somebody and I would feel this polarization energy and I'd be like, because I'm heteronormative, I'd be like, oh my God, they have a girlfriend. And then it got to the point where I could predict it in advance. And so as I was moving out of this lesson, if I would meet somebody that I was magnetized with, I'd be like, I bet they have a girlfriend. And sure enough, they would. And so finally, I had to do the personal work, and it was much longer than I thought that it was supposed to be, which just goes to show my ego always thinks that I'm further ahead than I actually am. It's so funny. Anyway, so then when I, like the most latest person, when I see them now, it's like totally cool. There's just platonic energy between us. And I see them, I mean, they're still an attractive person, but I am not attracted to them anymore. And I don't feel their energy, their longing energy, especially as I'm walking off. I don't feel the heart chakra boomerang connection. It's just kind of like, oh, okay, cool. We're just friends now. Awesome, great, because you're in a long-term serious relationship, and I don't want to mess with that. Okay, so now for those that are not in the magnetized state, and I should probably do another recording about that because it's a really complicated process to break, and it creates a lot of pain and a lot of confusion. So if you're in a different configuration to where now you're feeling that repelling energy, what I encourage you to do, and this is really, really important, especially from now until June, while this portal is open, is to throw away any object that they have given you or that is theirs, or give it back. This is really important because their energy is imbued in those objects. And if you are trying to make a shift into a material existence where there is a possibility of reconfiguring that dynamic through a process of transmutation, because that is definitely on the table. Like, you have to walk away and let go of attachment and see if it's like a new person in the same body. It can happen. It's a process. It's not like magic overnight, but you can see it happen. It's like, wow, it's like I'm talking to a different person. Like, they're completely different. It's so weird. And that's one of the evidences that you have shifted into a different reality layer, and where you are now corresponding to a different version of them. But before that can happen, there is a point where you have to completely let go. And to assist in that letting go, it's really important that you throw away or give back any object that still has their presence or that energy, especially if it is symbolic of the dynamic that you are trying to overcome. That effectively clears your environmental space to allow you to go through portals, hidden portals. You might not be aware of it unless you've been doing quantum meditations to practice this, to practice being able to see it. You go through these portals often, actually. Everybody does, but we're just not cognizant of it. And that's what the Mandela effect is about, in my opinion. Because once you do that, you have to correct the memory and you have to correct the continuity, because the human psyche needs that in order to process the world in a coherent way that makes sense and doesn't make somebody crazy. And so there are these small little corrections which happen that on a minute-to-minute basis you're kind of unaware of. But on a year-to-year basis, or sometimes month-to-month basis, there can be massive changes. But in order to allow for those changes to occur, you have to stop engaging. I would also recommend deleting the conversation thread from your personal handheld communication device, to throw away any object that you have that reminds you of them, that's like hardcore, or that is from them. And that will open up this void of neutral space. Like I'm imagining your living room, right? And imagine that every object has its own aura. And let's say you have a picture of you and a loved one. Do people do that anymore? I mean, printing pictures is kind of like antiquated. Let's imagine that, because I don't have any. But let's imagine that you have a printed out picture of you and that some other person. Doesn't have to be the same person. That aura has a particular frequency around it. Let's say that if it was you alone from your high school days when you were really depressed, it might be kind of a grayish black around it, right? Because that is a visual representation of your energy state at that time. And now let's say that you're happy and it's like 5 years and you replace that picture of you with some other person that you care about. Then the aura around that picture frame will change. And let's say it's like a purple. Now, let's say that it's you and the person that you've just broken up with or separated from. There is an energetic tie, a very, very tiny little thread that I believe attaches to a reality layer that keeps that version of them alive. It's like a little tiny soul thread. And the more of those threads that you have in your house, the more alive you are keeping that image of them. So now let's say that they're the one that was really down or really toxic. And they have this blackness around them. Then you are energetically keeping threads tethered to your existence with their negative energy state because you have invited that into your home. You have invited that into your personal space, sometimes your body space, right? And when people talk about energy clearing, this is kind of like an esoteric practice where they might like rub sage around and do like cord cutting. What you really need to focus on is removing any threads of that vibration that may be tethered to material physical objects, because those are the ones that are most permanent. And through that process of letting go, you then open up the space to be neutralized of their energy. And then by releasing attachment and saying, just not right now, that creates a vacuum for things to be different